name is Kaye. I am the Education and Community Outreach Officer at the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. And what I love about my job is being able to meet Barbadians from every part of Barbados, no matter how old they are, no matter how young they are, no matter which parish they're from. I get thrilled every time somebody says, but this is really a national museum. It's got all of our history in here. That's very much what we're trying to do. I love when they make suggestions about things that we can add in that they think we haven't covered, or that we haven't covered sufficiently, because it helps us to constantly be updating and making it better for Barbadians to come. I don't know that I have just one favorite object in the museum. I mean, the museum is so full of all these fabulous things that you wouldn't believe that they're there until you come see them. We have a really, really huge painting which features a governor going to town, and which is in my favorite gallery, which is the Curator gallery, which is where we have our art gallery. And I love art, so I tend to be drawn to pictures and paintings. But for example, in our Harwood Gallery, which is our natural history gallery, there's an exhibit on shore whaling in Barbados, where lots of people don't even realize that we had a thriving shore whaling history dating back to previous centuries. And people used to get into these little itty bitty boats and go out and harpoon whales off the north and west coast of Barbados. You can still see them nowadays if you go up to the Animal Flower Cave around Easter time. You'll see them just off the coastline blowing water up in the air. But we've actually got a case in the Harwood Gallery dedicated to that. And it's got like a whale vertebrae in there, which shows you basically how huge these creatures were that these little itty bitty men in these little itty bitty boats were going up to get. And whenever I pass it, I'm like, wow. So I would say things like that. And if you're talking about exhibitions that we've got up now in our temporary exhibitions, then I would have to say it would be all those lovely stories coming out of the Black Portraits Gallery, where you can literally see all of these people who were black, who were famous, who really, really did things that not everybody knows about, because we have a tendency to concentrate in the Caribbean on our history of enslavement, which is great, which is wonderful, because we do need to acknowledge that part of our past, but also we need to balance it with stories of people who were not enslaved and who made viable contributions to the world and international history. Oh, well, I don't know if it's really a surprising fact, but one thing about our museum which is sort of integral to its history, which lots of people don't know, is that it used to be a military prison. Everybody sees the buildings all around the garrison and they think, oh, they're barracks or they're specialized military functions. And what we were the military prison. We actually still have a prison cell that's preserved pretty much as it was when the museum was still a prison. And our military gallery is actually housed in what would have been an officer's quarters at the time, which is pretty much about the same size as a prison cell now. Not really, just a bit bigger, but not terribly big. People are often quite shocked and scandalized as to how little space an officer and his entire family had to occupy in a space that was intended as a military prison. We've still got some of the implements of punishment, shall we say. So we, for example, got a wheel that they had to push up and down the parade space in the hot sun. We've still got the staging area. We've still got the parade ground, the small parade ground, which is our lower courtyard. So all of the history and quite a bit of the structure is still there, but lots of people don't realize that it was, to all intents and purposes, a high-class prison. Oh, well, there are lots of different ways to get a job in the museum. Most of the time, obviously, you have to apply like everybody else, but it helps if you have a background with different types of skills which are useful for people documenting or conserving or preserving our history. So lots of different careers you can go into, for example, or different things you can study. Like for example, if you're doing things like biochemistry and so on, that would make you suitable, for example, for either being a natural history curator or perhaps for one day becoming our conservator. You need to do a little bit more studying, but that's the kind of groundwork. It's not just, oh, I have a degree in history and I'm going to work at the museum. My degree, for example, I actually have a first degree in English literature, and my master's is in education, which is appropriate for an education officer. So it's not any one career. We have a range of careers just like any other business. What we can do for you though, if you're really interested in working in a museum and you want to see what's happening in there, we've got a number of different programs where teenagers and young adults can come in and just sort of test the waters, so to speak. So we have internship opportunities. We have our Junior Curator program, which runs for 8 weeks every summer. And of course, we also have opportunities to volunteer with our various departments. That gives you exposure to working with curatorial work, to working with gallery design or exhibition design, for working with people if you want to become like a tour guide and so on. We actually have trained tour guides for various parts of the tourism sector, and we continue to provide that as a service. So there are lots of different ways that you can get into the various occupations which are a part of a museum or which are related to a museum. My advice for someone who wants to become a curator is to just go for it. Decide what type of curatorial practice you want to do, because curators tend to specialize according to the type of history or interpretation that's being done at the museum where they're working. I would say, of course, do the appropriate subjects in school. History doesn't hurt, but having a knowledge of quite a few other things, the sciences, for example, don't hurt as well. Good foundational subjects you have to be able to write, so you need to be able to have a good command of the language that you're doing your interpretation in. English if it's Barbados, but there are other places in the Caribbean that you can work, and even all over the world. Lots of museum professionals, in fact, in the Caribbean area will perhaps start doing what they do in another country and maybe come home to Barbados. So for example, I know someone right now who's working as a tour guide that she did her first curatorial exhibition as part of a project attached to a university in Canada that had a strong link with a museum in their community. And the museum, of course, provides opportunities for people to come in and try different parts of curatorial work as part of our internship programs or part of our Junior Curator programs. But I would say my biggest advice is, if you want to become a curator, set that as a goal, find out what you need to do and work towards it. And of course, if you want, you can write me, you can call me. I'm educate@barbmuse.org.bb and ask your questions. Well, lots of people see the museum as a space where you just put things down to gather dust and collect it and so on. And we, of course, are trying to completely dispel that image. So we try as far as possible to be interactive with our audiences. We're very active on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Tumblr, we're on Twitter, and we'll go on pretty much any other medium that we think people want to speak to us on. We are very accessible via our email and WhatsApp and so on. We also, as far as possible, do as many public education events as we can every year. With COVID, we haven't been able to have as many things on the premises where we are, but we're still doing lots and lots of things online. We reach out to our various communities, both our local communities and so on. So we'll try to do like workshops on things like stick licking and so on, which we know people want to learn. We do toys and games days for the children to introduce them to traditional games. We offer teenagers lots of opportunities to interact with the museum, both as volunteers, interns, junior curators. We have a number of programs running in the school, like Heritage Champions, We Little Heritage Champs. We're now about to start another one for the Tiny Tots, We Heritage Champions, because we want to interact at every level of the society. The museum is welcoming to everyone, every age, from Barbados. We also encourage people to bring their friends from overseas to visit the space. But basically, we get involved with pretty much anything we can which benefits our community or which makes a contribution to our community. And of course, we're continually educating. We make ourselves available to teachers and schools as well. If you're teaching a part of a curriculum and you want a bit of help, you can either bring the class to the museum and we'll do a presentation, or we'll come out to the school. We're now looking at making that service available online via Zoom, where we can basically join a classroom as a guest presenter. We do that as well. So pretty much the sky is the limit in terms of what we're doing to keep in touch with our community and to keep our community engaged.